bull-eye blaster Shannon Taylor continues his road back to boxing stardom after some dark times, but Indonesian Sinkok Pasaribu proved little more than a speed bump. Still fighting above his favoured weight division, he dropped the Indonesian several times before it was stopped in just the second round. Chad Bennett has waited a long time for this bout, but Jack Slowday wanted to end it all early. Dodging some big bombs, the man they call Hollywood boxed his way around the tough Indo opponent, racking up points along the way. Showing the scars of battle, Slowday took things below the belt. After a timeout, Bennett went back to work, and after the full 10 rounds, it was clear who won.
It's not known exactly how it happened, but on Wednesday and Thursday last week, theatre gowns were not sterilised before they were used. 5 theatre packs were used in Gosford Hospital, while 1 pack was used in Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital. Hunter Health says the scenario is extremely rare, but maintains the gowns were washed and disinfected before they were used near patients.
We would not expect them to pick up anything because the temperature of the wash is so high that it kills almost everything that we know of.
Since the error was identified, the Hunter and Central Coast Health Services have now contacted all 22 patients involved. While patients might have had a slight chance of picking up a bacterial infection, doctors say they are in no danger of picking up a blood-borne disease.
Well, the reassuring thing is that all the gowns and drapes had a Australian standard wash, which is a very high temperature wash for a long time. So that kills all the common bacteria. It kills hepatitis C, it kills HIV and hepatitis B.
Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
Big hits are the name of the game early, but Craig Milne found out the hard way when things can go wrong. The Waratahs flanker left dazed, but the game's leading point scorer Greg Tolhurst was right on target. Always dangerous, you can't afford to miss fullback Chris Mikulski, the Tars skipper, crossing to make it 10-0. After missing 2 earlier shots, Anthony Foster got Wanderers on the board. The hits kept coming, but so did Wanderers' penalties, which could only lead to more Waratah points. Lalu Mohu's finish making it 18-6 at half-time. The two Blues needed points and Luke Barker accommodated. But Tolhurst made it 21-13 with another penalty. Before country centre Anthony Barrett gave the Wanderers a real chance late in the game, but it remained 21-20 with the Tars straight into the decider.
Pasminco was originally known as the Sulphide Works and started smelting 18 years before any steel was ever produced at BHP. In 1897, these pioneers had the ambitious task of carving out the first major industrial site in the Hunter. Initially, it was an electrolytic zinc plant, but only 4 months later, the site was converted to an orthodox lead smelter. As the smelter grew, a community emerged. Today, the building, which once housed the smelter, still stands and is now the machine workshop. Next door, the old silos once used to store cement can still be found. And back then, there was some pretty unusual work practices.
Back in those days, they used to mine gold in the old smelter, and then so that they wouldn't take the gold back home in their pockets, they'd then walk back over to the change house of an afternoon, back in the nude, get showered and then go home.
Today, these men, as their fathers and grandfathers before them, endure the same high temperatures and dangerous tasks to produce much needed products such as zinc, mainly used for galvanising, as well as lead, used in car batteries. But the death knell for Pasminco sounded in September 2001, when the company went into voluntary administration with debts of $2.8 billion. Last year, Pasminco announced it would close, but the date was brought forward and the molten metal from these hardened furnaces will become memories in only a matter of days. Tomorrow night, we talk to the workers who have had generations of history and stable employment from this industrial giant. For the Ford family, and many others like them, working at Pasminco has been a long and proud tradition.
My grandfather worked here as well, not actually as in the smelter, but in the old fertiliser plant, yeah. And then my dad started here, and then I started here in '72, and then Jason's been here about 9 years.
Jason Ford is a fourth-generation employee. Ironically, he's doing exactly the same job his father Graham did 15 years ago, working as a control room operator.
The days of people being in a job for 30 or 40 years, it's long gone. If people are in a position for 10 years nowadays, they're a long-term employee and they're lucky to have that.
For Evan Skleros, the closure of Pasminco has come as a cruel blow. He was also retrenched from BHP when it closed 4 years ago, but fortunately he's now found a new job.
I just couldn't see myself going back on the dole again because I spent 12 months on the dole and found it very difficult to pay a mortgage off on the dole.
In a bizarre twist, Evan has gone full circle and will now work for One Steel, a subsidiary of his former employer, BHP.
I'm very thankful that I'm going to get a bit of money from here and walk straight into another job, to where a lot of people here aren't going to have that opportunity.
Mark Buman also took a redundancy from BHP 12 years ago, but like many others is still searching for work.
As I said, when I left BHP, you get in your comfort zone and all of a sudden you get kicked out of it, so it's a big shock. So I have to get my interview skills up to scratch. I don't think they're real good.
Tomorrow we look at Pasminco's environmental legacy and what's to become of the site. The environment was affected right from the very beginning. Little did the workers know that the tranquil playground they once enjoyed was slowly being destroyed by the byproducts of their hard labour.
Well, in the 1890s, there were very few, if any, environmental controls, and it's likely that there was pollution from day one of the company's operations, back in the 1800s.
I think people then would have been responsible, but they would have been responsible to the standard that applied then, and clearly the knowledge that was around at that point in time is not the same level of knowledge that's available today.
The first environmental laws weren't introduced until the 1960s. And over the years, there's been alarming emissions of lead into the atmosphere. There have also been significant fish kills in nearby Lake Macquarie. But even back then, it was not known who was to blame. However, what's certain is that the smelter is still affecting fish in the lake.
You can detect heavy metals in sediments in Lake Macquarie and in fish, but they're not at levels that cause health concerns.
The Environment Protection Authority says it's also concerned about the 1.4 million tonnes of slag on the site, but Pasminco says the piles of the smelting byproduct will be covered in the next 6 months. It says it has spent $40 million over the last decade on environmental and health projects. However, it's still being prosecuted by the EPA. And while improvements will be made once the site closes, the EPA says it would be impossible to completely reverse the environmental damage.
It's unlikely that the site would ever get back to a pristine natural area, but it can get back to a useful situation, and it most certainly will get back to a point where it no longer poses a threat to the environment or to the local community.
Tomorrow we look at the community's reaction to the closure. Over the years, the community has become increasingly aware about exactly what's coming out of the smokestacks at Pasminco and how it's affecting the health of residents. In the past, children who lived near the smelter at Bullaroo had blood lead levels which exceeded national health guidelines. So the company tried to prevent young families from living near the smelter by buying houses in several streets. But the fact remains, lead emissions are still a concern today.
On average, children's blood lead's in the area about 2 to 3 times the average in the rest of the state.
The average blood lead level is 8.6 micrograms per decilitre, which is just under the preferred national maximum of 10. A high lead level can cause developmental problems in children.
If you increase it by another 10 points, then across a population of children, you may decrease the average in IQ or intelligence quotient by 1 to 5 points, depending on which studies you look at.
Meanwhile, Pasminco says in its last year it contributed more than $80 million to the local economy. The loss of jobs will be an obvious blow to the area, but the local mayor says he's also had plenty of positive feedback. Land values are expected to increase, while there's already been strong interest in converting the Pasminco site for light industrial use.
People see a lot of opportunities for job creation on the site, cleaning up of the area, opening up of areas that basically haven't been available for young people, young children to live in.
Tomorrow we speak to the workers who are coming to terms with a new future. For more than a century, thousands of workers earned a living working at the smelter.
I wouldn't say I'd enjoy it, but it's a means to an end. It's providing for my family, has provided for my family. Basically, that's what it has been. It's been good employment.
But some of the specialised skills passed down by generations of employees will be lost forever once the smelter closes next week. However, the greater concern is the loss of jobs, and experts say work in a similar field will be hard to come by.
In days gone past, if a company like Pasminco was closing, you could say, oh well, some of the employees will find jobs at BHP or other types of heavy industries. You can now probably count those on one hand.
All up, $27 million will be paid out in redundancy entitlements. And for a company which is in administration, experts say Pasminco is going above and beyond what they're required to do by law. The average worker has been employed at the site for 14 years, so starting again can be difficult. Darren Newell is a supervisor and admits finding work can be frustrating.
The different criteria that other companies are asking for is nearly beyond a joke. I've been told that I still haven't got the criteria to fill a labouring position.
But it's not all hard luck stories. A third of the workers have already found work, like 20-year-old Matthew Shaw, who has secured a job which will enable him to finish his apprenticeship.
It is a relief, yeah. Like a lot of the people here wouldn't have jobs yet, and it's good to know that you've got something to go to once this finishes.
There's no doubt the community would not be what it is today without the smelter. It has contributed to the economy and provided thousands of jobs. But once it closes, the air is expected to be cleaner, blood lead levels will improve, and it's hoped new opportunities will emerge so workers and the community can look forward to a new future.
Newcastle's Christchurch Cathedral is impressive by just about anyone's standards, but its majestic ornaments have now been adorned with the colours and perfumes of spring. The cathedral filled with thousands of fragrant blooms, each unique creation inspired by the words of well-known hymns. Vegetables also managed to find a place amongst the arrangements of this year's annual Cathedral Flower Fest. And it was serious business inside the Town Hall today as judges scrutinised 178 entries in the Newcastle Charity Doll Show. They were hard-pressed to find any faults with this locally made beauty, while a fantasy doll demanded more than its fair share of attention. Cuddly creations are expected to be a real crowd pleaser when the show opens to the public tomorrow. All proceeds will go to the Newcastle Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service. Colleen West, NBN News.
There was a time when window shopping was innocent enough. The biggest problem for shopkeepers was cleaning smudges off the glass after the press of potential customers. Thieves know they have 2 or 3 minutes to get in and out with as much as they can carry. Some target specific items, stealing to order.
Laptop computers are very easily sold on the black market or whatever, so it's an easy thing to steal. It's nice and small, it's light, they can run away with it and they can get money for it quickly.
Cameras, electrical goods, trail bikes and tractors are the hot items, adding to Australia's $700 million a year business break-in bill.
I mean, every time the phone goes off in the middle of the night, I dread it.
You go to bed with a mobile phone alongside the bed, and when it rings, you know exactly what's happened. But every night you go to bed, and you just hope it doesn't.
Well, we've had 5 break-ins in 5 or 6 weeks.
Steve Ward is installing a new security camera system in his shop. Peter Phillis is cleaning up after his fourth break-in in 5 weeks, knowing there's a ready market on the streets, the internet and even weekend markets for the goods he lost overnight.
Often goods are sold there at cheaper prices than we can buy it for, ex-tax. So there's something crazy going on there. So there's not much regulation of that market. And whenever there's easy outlets, people are going to be stealing things.
But after 2 more tractors and ride-on mowers were taken out of his dealership in the fourth break-in in 2 months, Kent Island doesn't know how long his insurer will stick by him.
It will send us broke if we don't stop the theft. The insurance just won't cover it or continue to cover it.
Thieves will try anything to break in, and business owners are tired of copping it sweet. Graham Boyd designed his new motorcycle dealership with security in mind. In the 6 weeks since he opened, he's had 6 unsuccessful break-in attempts.
First they've got to get in through the ram bars, then they've got to get in through the door, then they've got to get in through the trolley door, then they've got to knock over a heap of scooters that they don't want and a couple of used bikes that they don't want to get to the dirt bikes down the back. So basically I expect them to leave me alone now and go elsewhere.
A reinforced steel perimeter barrier, extra security patrols, a guard dog in the yard and a highly visible location wasn't enough to stop thieves backing up a truck and stealing tractors from Kent Island's business.
They're very brazen. They stood out in the front yard under a 400 watt light and hot wire a tractor. Like they're not frightened to do it. On the Pacific Highway, they're not frightened, to have themselves seen.
These criminals, this is what they do. They talk amongst themselves. They know the law better than the police. They know that no judge is going to send them to jail for stealing a dirt bike. So they just go ahead and bugger the consequences.
I think there's problems with a lot of young offenders that are released virtually immediately with a warning or counselling, and even repeat offenders seem to be out there on the streets and able to do the same crime over and over again.
In Peter Phillis's shop, laptops are chained down. Soon goods may not be displayed at all.
At the end of the day, it's contributing to a general deterioration of society. If our shop's got to be done up like Fort Knox and every other shop in Australia's got to be the same way, then essentially we're going to look like Beirut.
Business is booming in the private security sector. Started by a former New South Wales police detective, Nightland Security has grown from a staff of 1 to 300 in the past 5 years.
So that would give you an indication of what's happening within in the private sector in relation to security. The growth is certainly enormous.
He looks after the guy across the road and the guy around the corner. If he's nice and close, if they make an attempt on this building, the security company is going to be here in under 2 minutes, and they know that they're going to get caught, so they'll go elsewhere.
The reality of it is the police cannot cope with the demand and the problems that are happening. There is an increase in crime, there's certainly an increase in drug activity, there is certainly a lack of facilities and manpower out there on the road.
Training and technology are 2 of the latest weapons in the fight against crime. Security guards and soon even big-ticket goods will be satellite tracked. Current legislation and regulations, though, like the lack of any real powers for security guards, don't make the fight any easier.
With the new council regulation with outward opening doors, it leaves the hinges on the outside of the building where they're exposed. So the pros are coming along, chiselling the hinges off the building, yanking the doors off the building and then attempting to get in.
I wouldn't say the police have lost it. I think that the police are fighting a very hard battle. They're limited with their resources. They're limited by budgets that the government sets, and they've got to work to those parameters. They're certainly aware that they've got to work in conjunction with private security organisations. I can see a time where we'll have little pockets of communities that are serviced by private organisations, and it'll be like a private police force.
Your first question led off about whether there's an epidemic. I've been clear that it's not an epidemic. There's been an increase in recent weeks, and I accept that, and we're very concerned about it. We're doing our darndest to put a curb on it. We've had some great success in recent weeks. There's been something like 15 offenders arrested in various areas around Newcastle and the Central Coast.
Another day, another smashed-in shop door. On average, there are 4 or 5 break-ins on businesses across the Hunter region every day of the year. But according to the Bureau of Crime Statistics, levels haven't increased over the last couple of years.
I don't think crime is really under control, and this sort of crime against property seems to be taken as it's quite okay these days, it's acceptable.
What is mounting is the cost of crime. Repairing shops, replacing goods, police holding rooms are full of unclaimed items recovered in raids. The police urge business people to be more vigilant, record the serial numbers of their goods, report suspicious activity, and toughen up security, and that's a boom industry.
We have generally good relations with the security companies, especially in the Newcastle area, and from time to time they do supply us with information, which has in effect resulted in us being able to arrest some people.
Feeding the problem is a willing market for suspect goods.
If you buy cheap goods in a hotel or at the back of a hotel or in a back laneway, people shouldn't buy stuff just because it's new and it's cheap. You could be committing an offence yourself.
Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
The Newcastle Art Gallery has captured the minds and imaginations of more than 60,000 people during the past 12 months, and it's hoping to increase that number even further following the announcement of a new sponsorship deal. Sydney-based property developers WAM Projects has pledged $80,000 to secure the short-term future of the gallery.
It means over the next 2 years we can put together very innovative and unique programs for the Hunter audiences.
Among the initiatives, a program aimed at helping young artists develop their careers.
This program will allow us to commission artists to make new works to be exhibited here at the gallery.
It forms part of a larger plan aimed at localising the content at the gallery, and it's already making headway towards that goal with an exhibition from internationally renowned artist Newcastle's very own Michael Bell. The hung and strung show of locally made puppets is also pulling in the crowds, along with a display of the gallery's newly acquired pieces. Colleen West, NBN News.
The driver's side of this sedan bore the brunt of the impact from the mid-morning collision on the New England highway at Harpers Hill between Lochinvar and Greta. The car, carrying a 32-year-old blacksmith woman and her 6-year-old son, was heading towards Newcastle when it slammed into the rear wheels of a Hunter Valley-bound tanker loaded with rehydrated lime. The region's rescue helicopter played a pivotal role in the evacuation of the injured from the crash scene. The boy, suffering chest injuries, was airlifted first to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital, while ambulance officers worked to release his mother, who was trapped in the wreckage.
Very, very serious accident, quite a complex series of steps we had to take to actually get the lady out of that car.
The woman was transferred to hospital in a critical condition with head injuries and multiple fractures. Police say mother and son were returning from an interstate holiday and fatigue is one possible cause of the accident.
It's still in the early stages of investigation. We've got the accident investigation section coming out from Newcastle.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
Despite its modest exterior, Redhead's Hydromatic Engineering is the base camp for a worldwide exporting business, constructing drilling bits and bolts for the mining industry. For the second year running, the Lake Macquarie business cleaned up at the Hunter Regional Export Awards, beating 13 other finalists to the top honour.
We currently export 75% of our production, and that is an increase on last year, so I figure that that's helped us to win the award again.
At Gateshead, the Emerging Exporters Award takes pride of place at Seaware Australia, and much like Hydromatic, there were humble beginnings for the Sun Protective Clothing Company, now exporting to 12 countries with expansion plans in place.
The Japanese market is a huge market for us, and we're looking forward to that growing next year as well. We get most of our overseas customers come here on an annual basis to visit us, and we design here as well for them.
Adam McIlwright, NBN News. Seen here preparing on home turf back in July, the 27-year-old finished the last round of the second sectional LPGA Tour qualifier with a 5-over par 77 at Mission Hills in California. Burns is now well placed going into the final round of qualifying matches in Florida next month and is among 136 players chasing one of 23 LPGA Tour cards on offer. North and South are still standing in the Premier Hockey League and will meet in next week's grand final after both enjoyed convincing wins in yesterday's semis. West was simply outclassed, with John Fernance leading South's charge, opening their account and going on to score another 2. Long-range passing didn't pay off for West and was soon back on the defensive, Souths booking their grand final ticket with a 5-goal win. And the opening day of the Lake Macquarie Ladies Festival of Bowls was marked with a Central Coast derby, with Wyong keeping Yamina Beach in tow in Game 1. Valentine is firming as a possible finals contender after a good win over Burwood Colliery, with play continuing on Wednesday. Adam McIlwright, NBN News.
Shouldering the problem for some weeks, long-term rest and recovery or a shoulder reconstruction appear the only options for Gidley, which would mean he'd forego any chance of touring with the Kangaroos. A revolving door would have best suited his teammates at the club's medical today in Newcastle, with the squad undergoing full medicals in a bid to repair the injuries as soon as possible. The news not great for Robbie O'Davis. After suffering a range of problems this season, scans revealed the fullback played the last month with a second break in his thumb.
After a week of just laying up at home, I decided I can't do much, I better go get this checked out, and sure enough I smashed right up the top of my thumb, and I just have to get the nose and thumb operated on at the same time.
Craig Hall will undergo surgery on his knee that will lay him up for around 8 weeks, while Mark Hughes requires surgery on his knee before even worrying about his neck. Andrew Johns will know more in 2 weeks about his season-ending pain in the neck, while means Test hooker Danny Badiris will be fine for the Kangaroo Tour.
This home theatre display was missing its centrepiece today, a $12,000 plasma screen taken during an early morning raid at a Wallsend electrical store.
Very disheartened. Only owned the business for 3 odd months, and it's not a very pleasurable experience to have straight up, so hopefully it's the last.
Across Newcastle, another 2 plasmas were stolen overnight after thieves cut out a window pane to access this store. Business owners realise police have a difficult task.
It must be very hard for them too. I mean, there's a lot of retail stores like us carrying them, and nobody knows which one's next. So, but they can only do what they can do. I suppose it is disappointing we don't have a local station anymore at Wallsend, but the powers that be make those decisions. So.
Police say they are having some success. They've recovered this $20,000 plasma screen, a safe, jewellery and firearms in a house at Tyers Hill last week, making an arrest in the process.
If they see a television being sold out of the back of a car in a back street, then we need to know about that, because that little bit of information could just be what we're after to break that particular group who unfortunately appear to be preying on business premises that do have these high value resale articles.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. Teenager Michael Marslew had been working part-time at a Pizza Hut in Sydney when he was shot and killed during an apparent robbery attempt in 1994. Since then, his father Ken has been trying to teach young people the right path in life in a bid to turn them away from crime. Today, he had the attention of this group from Belmont High School.
It's about accepting responsibility at every level in their life. If their life is not the way they want it to be, it's their choice to make it the way they want to be. And we're going to give them some strategies today.
He says playground bullying and drug taking in the school years can often lead to worse actions in later life.
Kids are being told that, they're not responsible for a lot of things that are going on, when in fact they are. They're our leaders of tomorrow, and we as adults need to give them both role models and strategies to deal with the future.
It was the shock of his son Michael's death that started Ken on his path of helping others.
Had it not been for Michael's murder, I do not think I would be doing anything like this. It's completely turned my life around, but I think in honour of Michael that we can make society a better place.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Commonwealth Government will contribute $5.5 million to restore Fort Scratchley. It will also provide money to assist in relocating the Newcastle Regional Maritime Museum. And once that's complete, Newcastle City Council will become the new owner.
We'll be taking it over in a repaired condition, in a condition where everything is in good order, and that's the start we need.
The Lord Mayor hopes tourism will pay for the fort's future maintenance. There's a possibility of exploring the city's convict history by locating underground tunnels once used for coal mining, while a restaurant could also be built to remember the personnel which once lived there. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
It may not be Uluru, but some at Newcastle Council believe this rock that fell onto Shortland Esplanade a year ago could become an attraction for its interpretive value.
So do you think you could interpret anything from that rock?
No, except that it's fallen in the middle of a road.
The popular coastal road has been fenced off since the 20-tonne boulder fell, with the initial estimate of 1 week to clear it blowing out to a year, and Council is now considering leaving it there permanently or even moving it to a new location.
Well, I don't think the rock should be wasted. It is a large boulder, and I think that we could use a bit of imagination and use it in a significant location, and maybe a bit of landscaping around it. Perhaps an area in King Edward Park.
I think there's nothing but a rock there, and if it had fossils or something in it, I would go and definitely see it, but it's just a rock that fell off, so I don't see the use.
But I don't think you can make much out of it. I mean, it's just there, right? It's a rock.
We asked permission to view the rock today, and we were told we'd need a safety induction, safety equipment, a team of council officers to be present, and 24 hours notice before we could go in. So how hard is it going to be to make this area safe for the public?
I'm told some millions of dollars, probably 2, 3, 4, perhaps 5, to do a reconstruction that would allow motor vehicles to go back along there again. In the meantime, what we will do is make it safe so that people can use it as a walking path.
Getting to that stage could take another year. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Those living in Golding Street, Belmont North, have confronted bushfires on many occasions, but never did they imagine a blaze like this would strike so soon. This house fire is believed to have been sparked by a floating ember. Only minor damage was caused to one side of the property. Firefighters now fearing the strong winds could carry burning embers further, igniting spot fires at any given location. The blaze skirted backyard fences, residents preparing for the worst, even police lending a hand. Further north, the Redhead Industrial Estate was in another fire's path. Burning along Callaroo Road, police under strict instruction not to allow anyone through, with a nearby caravan park already evacuated. Savage winds also wreaked havoc on the water. On Lake Macquarie, a weekend birthday was cut short for 8 partygoers after their vessel ran aground. Salvage efforts are continuing.
It's a harsh climate, and it's believed for at least 40,000 years the massive sand dunes at Stockton Beach have been home to the Worimi people. Now they're conducting their own tour in conjunction with Horizon Safaris, sharing some of the secrets of the land they love.
For culturally sensitive reasons, we don't go any further onto the site than this, as these have been here for between 300 to 3,000 years.
Practical skills are taught, like how to find fresh water.
Just a couple of moments delay, the water level will start to rise.
And tourists are also told about significant places for Aboriginal men and women and of ancient burial sites, although their location remains a mystery.
But any of these things, we don't remove them from the site, as you will receive bad luck until they are returned.
And it will be more than a case of bad luck if you're caught taking any pippies home, with fines of up to $20,000 or imprisonment. But once you've had a drink and got your feet wet, there's also time for some fun on the dunes. The Warramite people are hoping to market their Indigenous tour better to attract more international visitors. Lyndall Derrig, NBN News.
Anne von Berto's portrait hangs at the head of the gallery, as if overlooking her personal treasures. She died in late April, and for her estate to be wound up, some of her favourite personal pieces will be sold tomorrow to cover debts.
These are a wonderful collection for anyone who knows the gallery and knows Anne's great aptitude for selecting the right kinds of works.
Interest in the collection has been received from around the state, with painting, drawing and ceramics on sale from $80 to $10,000, while no price has been put on the Mary Beeston portrait. It's been described as an amazing collection of work, considering that just before her death, Anne von Berto bequeathed millions of dollars worth of art to the people of Newcastle.
This spans the period from the beginning of the gallery in 1963 to the very last painting that she purchased in April this year.
And although there's some sadness in seeing this collection split up, there's no question Anne's influence in Newcastle art circles will continue. Colin Robinson, NBN News. Just when the Millennium Train controversy seemed to have taken a back seat to other issues, State Rail has whipped it up again with threats to the contractor EDI Rail.
How would you like to be the CEO of EDI with all the bloody hoo-ha going on at the moment, trying to win more contracts, keep these people employed and in fact employ other people? It's an absolute disgrace.
State Rail says it will not accept any more Millennium trains from the company from the 16th of October until the ones it already has meet reliability targets, even though it admits that reliability has improved, with only 2 incidents being reported in September. But Australian Workers' Union representative Kevin Maher feels staff and EDI are being used as a political football and that their futures are at risk.
They put on their resume, yeah, we work for EDI Rail at Cardiff, building the Millennium train. What they're concerned about are people are going to, prospective employers are going to say, well, geez, don't call us, we'll call you.
No one at EDI Rail was available for comment. Colin Robinson, NBN News. In the past 2 days, 4 fatal crashes have claimed 7 lives, taking the state's road toll to 402 deaths this year. Extra police from Sydney are patrolling the Pacific Highway this weekend, trying to prevent drivers from taking unnecessary risks.
It is a holiday period. Don't rush to their holiday destinations, otherwise they may not get there, because this is the most dangerous time of the year when they do try and rush and try and get to their destinations quickly.
A bypass of Karua is due to be finished next year, but until then the town remains a bottleneck, with the RTA erecting a fence to stop drivers crossing lanes and a manned crossing for pedestrians.
With the road construction going on just north of Karua, there will be delays there because of the single lane and narrowness of it. But I just ask drivers to take their time, take it easy through there, particularly if it's going to rain.
Extra penalties are also in place this weekend.
There is double demerit points that started from midnight last night or this morning and goes right through until midnight on Monday night. and it's double demerit points for all speeding offences and for all drivers and passengers who don't want to wear their seatbelts.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. This bridge is just one of a number that cross the North Coast Line, providing a vital piece of road infrastructure for communities like Martins Creek. The current state of this bridge through the village, complete with what appears to be temporary repairs and termites, has locals worried.
Does it have to take a life before something gets done about it, and how much money do you actually put on that?
RTA-imposed load limits control truck movements through the area, which is already impacting on water deliveries and haulage of milk consignments from some farms. Despite 2 years of trying, Dungog Council has been unable to draw the Carr government's attention to the issue.
We certainly can't afford to fix them. State Rail is responsible. Unfortunately, they only have to fix them to the condition they were originally built.
The plight of residents and council will now see Hunter Upper House MP Robin Parker raise the problem in State Parliament.
We'll be calling on the government to speak to the locals here and let them know what their plans are to make the bridges safe.
State Rail today revealed it does have plans to repair 3 bridges at Martins Creek, the work expected to be completed early next year. Gary Blair, NBN News.
Hunter Jamieson has had a tough start to life, being born 10 weeks early. It's premature births like this researchers are hoping to prevent. In a new approach, doctors are looking at using a combination of medicines to stop premature labour once it has begun.
A lot of the research that we've done suggests that there are actually multiple pathways involved in triggering premature labour, and so we're taking an approach of trialling multiple drugs to see if they're in fact better than just a single agent.
The drug they are trialling in conjunction with the current treatment is a commonly used arthritis medication.
Well, an arthritis drug actually stops the formation of a group of compounds called prostaglandins. They're important in arthritis, but they're also involved in activating the uterus of the pregnant woman to go into labour. So we're hoping that addition of this drug will help stop labour.
And keeping babies in the womb longer means they have a much better chance at being healthy in the long term.
And in the very premature babies, there's an increased chance of intellectual handicap, blindness and deafness. And yes, it would be fantastic if we could prevent just a part of that.
Researchers from Newcastle's Mothers and Babies Research Centre are running the trial, which includes institutions in Asia, North America and Europe. The trial will take 4 years to complete, with 1,000 women taking part. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Despite a recent facelift and a strong focus on community activities, the Shortland RSL has slipped into the red with a voluntary administrator appointed last week.
The club's just suffered from a downturn in membership, a resulting downturn in cash revenue. They've attempted to fund that on an ongoing basis through the sale of some of the club assets.
Debts have blown out to $500,000, with creditors meeting today to discuss the next step.
We've sent letters out to a number of clubs in the area. We're at this stage negotiating with those clubs, and we're hoping that we might be able to reach an agreement for an amalgamation. Failing that, we'll have no option. We'll have to shut the doors.
RSL staff say they've worked hard to attract patrons.
We've put all our effort, heart and soul into getting the place back up. We've done a lot of work. It looks a lot better than it did a few years ago, and the staff have been excellent. But it's hard for everybody.
The smaller clubs struggle competing with the services that have been provided by larger clubs, which over the past few years, or the past 10 years, have grown substantially. It's a very uneven industry.
Meantime, members of the Hamilton RSL have voted against an amalgamation with Newcastle Tattersalls. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
This ground floor room below Don McNair's Lake Macquarie home is known as his operations centre. It's where the avid botanist and helping hands from the Australian Plant Society have spent the past 8 years assembling a herbarium, a systematic collection of dried plants for Newcastle University. Don's own collection numbers almost 10,000 specimens, and over the past 50 years he's become widely regarded as an authority on the subject, dedication which has seen the uni name its herbarium after him.
It was an honour, there's no doubt about that, but it did take me a while to get used to it, especially when I saw the first sheet with Don McNair herbarium on it.
The McNair collection will be combined with others, including specimens collected by another keen hunter botanist, John Turner, to give the university what's described as a modest collection.
It is a basis, and it's a sound basis, be it for plant illustration, plant taxonomy, or even down the line research.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
They make it look all too easy, but along with this grace comes years of training, passion and dedication. Jacinta Isaac's dream of one day gracing America's stages is about to be realised. The 16-year-old will join two of her dance colleagues at New York's Icon Ballet Theatre for 1 month next year.
It's a great opportunity to be able to go to New York and dance there. It's always what I've wanted to do.
It's here she'll spend a gruelling 8 hours a day training with principal dancers and the company's artistic director, Kiara Icon, who is currently scouring the country in search of talent.
Hard work, dedication, passion, and an unusual personality.
The company's principal dancer, Darren McIntyre, is living proof that dreams really do come true.
I've been given the opportunity. I definitely work hard and I love it, and I think that that's very important.
Because the need is so great, and the silence of our local members at the moment is one of the most disappointing features.
If you think a sausage is just a sausage, then perhaps you should think again. They may vary very little in size and shape, but when it comes to taste, they can be poles apart. And it's little surprise, with gourmet, continental, pork and Aussie tasty snags among the varieties finding their way into butcher shops across the country. Today, sausages from 30 shops in the Hunter Valley and Central Coast were put to the test by a panel of sausage-savvy judges. Appearance, fat content and taste all scrutinised.
It's really the aftertaste, the enjoyment that you feel from that product after you've cooked it and eaten it.
Singleton's, Barnett Meats and Heartland Prestige Meats from the Central Coast found the perfect recipes, sharing the prize for the best tasty banger.
We try and keep the ingredients as much the same as possible. I usually use my kids as guinea pigs.
All winners will contest the state titles in Sydney next month. Colleen West, NBN News.
It's the most picturesque of places, a refuge for tortured souls. And today, hundreds of supporters gathered at this Hunter Valley property to see a dream come true. Former Sydney casting agent Liz Mulliner has built the Mayumari Kids Camp to help heal young victims of child abuse.
We have no judgment. It's just any kid who says, I really want to feel happier about myself.
With the backing of famous friends, Liz today opened the retreat, an extension of an existing centre for adults, which is already changing lives.
I owe my life to Mayumari and am grateful for the chance at actually living instead of surviving life.
Celebrated author Bryce Courtney is also a survivor of abuse, telling today how as a child in an orphanage he found his salvation in books.
And somebody stretched out and touched me and opened this book and showed me the secrets inside of it. And I needed nothing more from that point on.
Mayumari is completely community funded. Jodie Packer, another supporter, doing her bit for fundraising efforts by designing a T-shirt.
It's an issue that it touches everybody's lives and everyone should be responsible for.
The Mayumari family will welcome its first young campers next week to begin a difficult but hopefully rewarding journey. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
It's the first time lower and coastal hunter economic development boards have put heads together under the guidance of the state government. 2 sub-regional groups have been established to assist economic development in the hunter. Job creation among the concerns aired this afternoon.
In the June quarter, employment figures have dropped for the first time in close to 10 years to about 9.3. So that is a positive, although we understand and recognise that we've got a lot of work to do.
Ms Pales says Cessnock's potential as a job provider has not been realised, something she's hoping will be addressed through regular meetings with the newly formed board. Improved cooperation between Lake Macquarie's educational institutions was also highlighted as a matter of priority.
It's also an issue of connecting both schools and the TAFE colleges back to our local employers, so work experience in the end does end up as traineeships or jobs.
The state government today lent its support and a few words of advice for the board.
To look at pilot projects potentially that may well help make the hunter more attractive to investors.
Colleen West, NBN News.
They have to form trust relationships quickly in a safe environment, but that's really good for them too, because it shows them that their world is not just their small world of their school, but that there are other kids just like them in other schools as well.
Born and bred in Newcastle, Scott Thomas led his home side out for the first time as captain. Since earning a starting spot, Ryan Griffiths has done nothing but impress, and his ball for Greg Owens had everyone on their feet. Griffiths was in the action straight after half-time as he almost bagged one for himself. He didn't have to wait long, and it was worth it. Pace and footwork left Adelaide's defence in tatters before a combination with Damien Brown ended with a perfect finish. Much like the celebrations, though, things began misfiring. Thomas's challenge on Aurelia Vidmar got Adelaide back in the game, Goran Lozanovsky shooting from the spot. 10 minutes later, a cool Vidmar did it all himself to level. Carl Vihart then split United's defence to smash home a header worthy of a winner. Newcastle still created enough to at least level the match, but the coach best summed things up post-match.
You're 2-0 up at home, you've got to go on and win it, and we haven't done that.